And welcome to another Tyler and Eli's Fantasy Football Tips podcast. I am your host, Tyler Belaski, and let me introduce to you tonight our co-host. He'd rather whip and nay-nay than do a little ballroom dancing. I give you Eli Belaski.
Hi.
That's it. That's all you guys. Just hi.
Yep.
It's Friday. Be excited.
Yes.
All right.
Friday.
You know what ballroom dancing is?
Yes.
Yeah? You don't want to ballroom dance?
Nope.
It's
not at all.
It's actually pretty fun. I know how to do it. I like it a lot. I don't do it enough, but that's for a different podcast. We'll talk about that later. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about the NFC East and the NFC North. And before we do those, we got 3 injury updates for you. The first one is Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Breshad Perriman. They initially thought he tore his ACL, but it turns out he just injured it. So they expect him to be back week 1 or 2. I don't really think it's a concern to be draft worthy or not, so I would just lay low on him and not even maybe put him on your bench, pick him up free agency. You agree with that?
Either way, don't draft him.
Don't draft.
Okay.
The second one is Sammy Watkins from the Buffalo Bills. He got his walking boot off. But wait, we said Buffalo Bills. You know what that means?
Yep.
What does that mean?
It means we're going to talk to you about our very first sponsor, GJP.
GJP in Oswego. That's right, over in Oswego, the JCPenney Plaza. Larry and the guys over there love football. They love fantasy football. You can call them up at 207-1000. You can order anything you want, pizza, wings, subs, salads, free delivery, wherever you can reach them at. You live in Mexico, the city, they'll send them there. You live over by the college, they'll send them there. Excellent food. Larry and the guys are there to serve you all night and all day.
Really?
Really, it's good food. So Sammy Watkins is out of his walking boot. He will be probably ready to go for week 1. Draft him.
Yeah, draft him.
2nd, 3rd round probably.
Yeah.
Last and but not least, we will talk more about this guy, running back Darren McFadden for the Dallas Cowboys. He broke his elbow. He had his elbow had surgery on it. He broke it by falling and tried to catch his phone. He was dropping it. He fell and boom, broke his elbow.
Not even playing football.
Not even playing football. But you know what? It's Darren McFadden. He's always hurt, so this doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So he'll be out probably week 1, maybe 2. But we'll talk more about him when we get to the Cowboys. So first up is the New York Football Giants, my favorite team. They're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but that's for another podcast in August.
Actually, they may.
So first up is quarterback Eli Manning. Where do you have him? Where do you want him? Where'd you draft him?
Draft him about 8 through 10 rounds. As I think you could get a better quarterback, but if you can't, start him. If you can, bench him. That's what I gotta say about Eli Manning.
Yeah, he's definitely number 1 quarterback. Start him. I think he's going to get almost 5,000 yards, 45 touchdowns this year. Their team is going to be amazing. It's his 2nd, 3rd year of the new system. It's going to be a passing system. And we'll talk about the wide receivers now. Odell Beckham Jr., obviously a number 1, number 2, maybe number 3 pick in the draft. He's a stud. He's a number 1, and that's all we really have to say about him. Totally. Other wide receiver, Victor Cruz. He's coming off injury from last year. I have him as a very weak flex. Definitely put him on your bench. See what he does for the first couple of weeks. If the injury keeps reoccurring, you can easily just drop him.
I agree with that. I would draft him 9 to 11.
Just
actually.
the rest of the draft, right?
Yeah.
Just if you want to pick him up, even the last pick, just pick him up.
Yeah, if you can get a good pick.
Yeah, and the other wide receiver, rookie Sterling Shepard. I think he is a weak number 2. You could flex him. You could get him in probably the 8th through 10th round. I think he'd be a good pickup. He's going to catch a lot of balls. He's going to get a lot of balls thrown to him.
He is the number 2.
He is the number 2 in New York right now, only because Cruz is hurt. So the Giants' receiving core is going to be amazing this year. Eli's going to be great. Yeah, he throws a lot of picks, but he's going to throw way more touchdowns
this year.
Running back Rashid Jennings. I think he's a weak number 2. You could flex him. Definitely put him on your bench. because he would be a good bye week filler.
He would be a good bye week filler.
Yeah, and you can easily pick him up 6 through 8 or later. I mean, if you want to reach for him at 6 to make that week number 2, if you have 3 solid receivers, if you want to draft that way, go for it. They have other multiple running backs with Shane Vereen and the rookie Paul Pelkey, but I mean, unless you're going to handcuff them, I wouldn't really worry about any of those guys for right now.
No, just Rashid Jennings. I have him going 8 through 10, 8 through 11 maybe. As like you said, strong. I think he's a solid flex, a good bye week filler.
Yeah, he is a bye week filler. And then the tight end. Who do you have for tight end over there?
Larry Donnell.
Larry Donnell. You could start him. I guess that he would be a week number 1 if there's no one else on the board you like. But we just got done with a mock draft, and he was still sitting there behind Antonio Gates and Jordan Camry. So I'd pick one of those 2 guys over Darnell. Maybe do as a bye week filler. So I wouldn't even worry about drafting him unless you really, really love him.
I would draft him. Yeah, I would draft him as my number 2.
As a backup.
Yeah,
backup. So you put him on the bench.
He's a good bye week filler. Backup / backup.
All right, so moving on to the Dallas Cowboys. As far as I'm concerned, don't draft any of them. I don't like the Cowboys, so just move on.
Except for.
No, I'm just joking. All right, so quarterback Tony Romo. What do you think about Tony Romo this year?
Do not draft him at all. He is going to be terrible this year. He always gets injured.
He is always injured. I'll give you that.
If he played 5 years, he's really only played about 2 years because of all his injuries.
That's right. He is coming off shoulder injury, and I think his back is always hurting him. So if you want, he is a week number 1. I mean, you could draft him late, anywhere after the 9th round. We saw him tonight go in the 9th to 10th round, I believe. So if he will put up big numbers though. He's going to throw 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns if he can stay healthy. If wide receiver Dez Bryant can stay healthy too. So what do we think about Dez Bryant? Moving on to him.
I think he's a solid number 2, strong flex.
Yeah, he is a solid number 2. I mean, if you want to take him number 1 on the flip. If you have 11th or 12th pick and you want to pick them up that late in the first round or early second round for your number 1 because all the other guys are there. But I would probably try to wait for a number 2 because you could probably get a better running back than you would him.
You could get a better wide receiver too.
Yeah, you definitely could. If you're drafting early, if you're drafting late, you may want to take him.
Yeah.
But you could easily get him in the late first, anywhere from 2nd to 3rd round.
Yeah.
As far as the other receivers in Dallas, I mean, there's Terrence Williams. And that's really about it. I'm not even worried about Terrence Williams. Maybe a bye week filler. He'll come out. He'll break out for 25 points in one game and then 2 points the next. So I wouldn't even worry about him. As we mentioned, running back Darren McFadden, since he's out for week 1, maybe 2. At first, I was really high on him, even after they drafted Ezekiel Elliott, because he is still a starter. He is the number 1. But now that he's going to be losing time in training camp because of the injury, I've bumped him down to a handcuff. I would draft him as a handcuff for Ezekiel Elliott.
Nope.
You wouldn't even draft him? Not even.
I wouldn't draft him even if he didn't have the injury.
Yeah, it's a tough call because he's always injured, and they have Alfred Morris too, who right now he's just sitting there because the number 1 running back now is Zeke Elliott. He's a stud. He's going
to be great this year.
He's going to be great. He's the number 1 running back. You easily get him in the first round. However, I would be cautious because he is a rookie. You can probably get someone way better like Todd Gurley or Jamal Charles or even Lamar Miller.
Even with Jamal Charles' injury.
Exactly. I'm just scared of the fact that he's a rookie. So,
I'm not scared at the fact at all because we watched college football games last season and we saw some Ohio State games. He was great. He was tearing it up.
He definitely tore it up. He's good. Don't get me wrong. He is good. I personally would be cautious because he's a rookie, though they have a great offensive line.
Yes, they did. That gives them a lot of that gets them across the offensive line.
Sure. I mean, he's going to put up 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns and probably 50 catches. So take him, definitely take him. If he's sitting
Yeah.
there in the late rounds, I may look at him. All depends who's at wide receiver. Uh, Tight end Jason Witten. He's a weak number one starter. I guess if he's still there very late and you need desperate for a tight end, you could take him. I mean, the man never gets hurt. He's a veteran. He knows how to catch the ball. Tony Romo loves him. But I'd probably just use him as a bye-week filler, so you could probably just draft him really super late or just pick him up in the waivers.
Yeah, I would draft him late as my backup.
As a backup. All right, Washington Redskins, I think this year,
They are going to do terrible.
I think they're going to do terrible, but I think they're going to put up a lot of good fantasy points because they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. They have a pretty okay defense, but they love to throw the ball. And with Kirk Cousins at the quarterback, he's going to put up big numbers this year in fantasy. I have him as I would draft him as a number one running back if there's no one else. I'd draft him over Marcus Mariota. I'd probably draft him
I would not.
over Jameis Winston.
Nope.
So I like him. So you take him 8 through 10.
I do not like him
No?
at all. Don't draft him.
Don't draft him.
Unless he's the best guy there for a backup.
For a backup. He's definitely a backup. He's definitely a backup quarterback or a bye-week filler. I would really think about drafting him. Wide receivers, Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. Both of them are very weak number twos. Definitely a flex.
Very weak flexes for me.
Yeah, they're gonna see the ball though. They're gonna get a lot of catches.
They are going to catch the ball.
Because they're gonna throw the balls 500-600 times at least, and they're gonna throw to someone. So you can probably get both of them anywhere after the 8th round. And with Deshaun Jackson, that's a steal. He's a number one. He puts up numbers. He loves going deep. He's gonna get 7 80-yard bombs this year for touchdowns. The running back Matt Jones. This is his second year running back. For me, I love him. I think this is going to be a sleeper because everyone's scared of him. They don't really know enough about him yet.
I don't like him.
I have him as a weak number two, definitely a bench play. If he's there for me, I'm drafting him. I think he's the only running back they have. And he can catch the ball. So someone has to run and he can catch. So I like him.
I don't really like him.
Okay, then that's fine. So would you even draft him as your bench?
I would draft him as my bench.
As a bench.
Right before, or one round before or 2 rounds before when you get your kicker or
so
defense.
deep in the late rounds?
Deep.
Okay. I think you could get him at 6, anywhere after the 6th round. It would be a good pick for him. Maybe 7. 6 maybe.
Draft him deep, but he's not going to go deep.
He's not going to go deep. All right. But a man who will go deep is tight end Jordan Reed. He's a definitely number one tight end. I think I have him in my rankings right now as the number 3 tight end overall. Easily pick him up anywhere. If you want to reach for him in the 2nd round, and I've seen him go 2nd round.
Really?
But, yeah, that's too early for me. I mean, Gronk in the 2nd round is perfect. I don't like him in the 1st. But Jordan Reed anywhere after probably the 4th round, 4 through 6, if you can get him in there, is a great steal. He's gonna catch right around 90 balls, I bet, and probably about 10 touchdowns. I mean, because they're gonna be throwing the ball. I can't stress enough. They are throwing the ball in Washington this year.
But they can't just throw the ball all the time because the defense is going to see that. The opponent's defense is going to see that. And they're gonna do pass plays a lot, so they kind of have to run it.
That's why they have Matt Jones. Matt Jones is going to tear it up. He's going to get at least 1,000 yards this year, and probably 7 touchdowns.
Jordan Reed, I do not like him. I would not draft him at all unless he's there. Like if you're choosing him and let's say I don't know, a nobody, like a tight end for...
Like a Zach Miller from Chicago?
No, I would draft Zach Miller over
Yeah?
Jordan
Is that
Reed.
the only...
I really like him this year.
But that's because more name recognition too, right?
Sort of.
Yeah. And we talked about that last week about name recognition with Eli.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to introduce the next team. Who got up next?
The Eagles, they're a big mess this year. I would not draft anyone.
That's actually pretty good. They are a big mess this year. I don't really see anyone. Maybe. It's Sam Bradford. No. Jordan Matthews, maybe
Nope.
a week number 2 or wide receiver,
Oh.
a flex, but he's a number 1 receiver, so he's going to catch the balls. But he's a flex by week filler. Running back Ryan Matthews
No.
again. A lot of people love him because he can catch. He's the number 1 running back, but for me, he's a bench or bye week filler,
Yep.
and that's I mean.
That's all we have for the Eagles.
Yeah.
They have their tight end Brent Selleck.
Yeah,
or
but there's
whatever.
another one, Ertz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Ertz.
Eric Ertz, I think.
No, Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz. I guess he would be the only one I would be drafting.
Yeah.
If you have to get a tight end, Zach Ertz is it. But even then, you can
If
probably
you had-
find someone better.
If you have to choose, yeah, like you said, if you have to choose Zach Miller, or Zach Ertz, then draft Zach Miller. Totally.
Exactly. Yeah, for the Bears, and we're actually gonna get to him because we're moving on to the NFC North. Sorry, Eagles fans. This isn't going to be your year this year.
Nope.
And we're going to do our team picks in August about who's going to win and make the playoffs. And right now, I have them coming in last in the East. All right, so moving on to the North, we have the Detroit Lions and quarterback Matthew Stafford. I think he's a weak number 1. He's going to throw the ball. Granted, yes, they lost Calvin Johnson, but they still have to throw. So anywhere after the 7th round, you can probably get Matthew Stafford.
Megatron.
Megatron is no longer here.
I know.
I know. You're just yelling at because you're sad.
Yes.
All right.
I liked him.
Yeah, I know you did. That was one of your favorite players, and then you met Antonio Brown, and then it's all over. All right. So wide receiver. So who's he going to throw to? Wide receiver. Number 1, Golden Tate, and number 2 right now, Marvin Jones. But a lot of people are saying these guys could flip. They say Marvin Jones could become the number 1, and Tate could be the number 2. Either way, they're both solid. For me, they're solid number 2s and easily a flex.
Yep.
They're gonna see a lot of balls. They're gonna catch a lot of balls. Touchdowns, they can go back and forth. One week Jones will get 3. Next week Tate will get to 3. It all depends on how Matthew Stafford's staying
because
up.
I don't really like Matthew Stafford this year, because I just don't like him.
Yeah,
I don't think he's gonna do good.
Yeah, the Megatron loss is huge for Stafford and the Lions, which means running backs Theo Redrick, he's going to run the ball, but he's a flex or a bench player for me. I'm not drafting him.
Same here.
And unless he's in the later rounds, I'm not even going to look at him.
Nope.
And same with tight end Eric Ebron. A lot of people are going to like him this year because Matthew's going to throw the ball a lot. So you could draft him. I want to draft him over Ertz, and I want to draft him over Witten. But if you want to reach for him, I guess you could. But I would maybe stash him on your bench or pick him up in the free agency.
Maybe a bench. But if there's no one else, like if there's Zach Ertz or Ebron, take Zach Ertz.
Yeah, definitely Zach Ertz.
And then if you have a turnaround pick and you don't have a backup tight end, then and there's no other good players, and then take them.
Take him. This is his 3rd year, and usually about the 3rd year, tight ends start breaking out. But I think it's going to be year 5 or 6 when he breaks out because of the loss of Megatron. All right, so why don't we move on?
Oh wait, but the loss of Megatron will just make Stafford want to look at more wide receivers.
That's true. Actually, that's a good point. That is a good point because now he has to rely on his other receivers and Jones and Tate and Ebron. That's a good point, Eli.
Because other than Tate, he doesn't really know how Marvin Jones works. Like if he goes deep a lot or if he goes short
That's true
a
because
lot.
Jones is coming in from Cincinnati this year. He was a free agent. Yep, you're right. They don't have that chemistry yet. All right, so why don't we move on to Mommy's favorite team, and that is the
Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers. We actually went to the stadium there. It was pretty cool. We drove around it. Yeah, we drove around it. We never got to get in, but we saw it. It's pretty big. It's pretty cool. All right, their quarterback, obviously Aaron Rodgers. He is he's a solid number 1. You got to take him. Easy. And if you want to reach for him, take him in the 3rd round. But I would wait probably 5 through 7 if he's still there.
Well, I think he would probably go. We've done some this mock draft. He went
Tonight, yep.
Tonight we did. He went I forget. He went 5 to somewhere from 6 or 7.
I think he was in the 6th or 7th round. Yeah, and for my quarterback rankings right now, he's the number 2 quarterback, so he's a stud.
Oh, actually, in my rankings, he's number 3, right after Big Ben.
Yeah, but you're biased. You like Big Ben. But no, you couldn't go wrong with either one. But, all right, so wide receivers, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. Nelson obviously is a number 1 receiver, I think. He's coming off an ACL injury, though, so that may hurt him a little bit.
I'm still drafting him as my number 1.
Oh, for sure. And you can easily get him. I'd wait until the later rounds, later first round, early second round, because by the end of the second round, he's going to be gone. Now with Randall Cobb, though, I think he's a solid number 2, definitely a flex.
Solid number. Well, if you have to pick T.Y. Hilton and Randall Cobb, then pick T.Y. Hilton, and then if you have a turnaround and he's there, that's a good matchup for Randall Cobb and T.Y. Hilton as your starting wide receivers.
Yeah, that is a good combination because everyone's going to be double teaming Nelson, and the Cobb will be left wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get Cobb easily anywhere from probably 4 to 7 or beyond. I remember I've seen him going in the 9th round because people were scared that because Nelson's coming back that he's going to lose a lot of looks, but I don't think he will.
Nope.
Running back Eddie Lacy. I like Eddie Lacy this year.
So do I.
He's lost a lot of weight. He is for me. Not a lot of people, though. For me, though, he's a solid number 1.
Solid number 1.
If you want to reach for him in the first round, go for it. But I'd probably wait until 2nd or 3rd round. But
yes.
I think he's going to do great this year.
2 to 4.
2 to 4th round. Yeah, I mean, if
2,
you
3, or 4.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get him in the 7th round, that's a steal. I mean,
that's a big steal.
Yeah, and whoever you're playing with in the fantasy leagues, they shouldn't be playing anymore because if you get him in the 7th round, you're going to win the league.
Well, yeah, but if you don't have 2 running backs, or at least your starting running back, then he's going to be your number 2 or your flex.
Easily, yes. Easily number 2 or flex. Now, the tight end situation in Green Bay is a little tricky. Richard Rodgers is there from last year, and he's the guy who caught the 2 or 3 Hail Marys last year. But they also brought in free agent Jared Cook, who used to play with the now LA Rams. So they're going to be biting for some time. But I wouldn't draft either one of them. Maybe a bye-week filler. Just Cook seems to be always injured, and Rodgers, you can easily pick someone better. I would probably take Eric Ebron before Richard Rodgers.
That's a tough choice for me, but I like Rodgers this year. I think he's gonna catch Hail Marys again.
Yeah, and from Rodgers too. So I mean, that's the only advantage that Rodgers would have over Ebron is because Aaron's throwing the ball instead of Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
All right, so I think the Packers are done. So let's move on to the Chicago Bears and their quarterback Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler, I like him this year. I think you'd get him 8 to 10 rounds as your number 1. I like him because of Zach Miller, and they brought in some new guys, Eddie Royale and Kevin White.
Kevin White's coming off a year of injury, so this is really his rookie year. He was injured last year. But as far as Jay Cutler goes, I like him. But for me, he's like Eli Manning, though. He always throws a lot of interceptions, and he gets frustrated really easily. And once you're frustrated, you're not going to be thinking straight. But Jay Cutler definitely is he's
solid number 1.
He's a decent number 1 for me. I wouldn't have put him up there in my top 10, but if you can get him, grab him. He's going to throw 4,025, 30 touchdowns. Wide receiver number 1 is Alshon Jeffrey. A lot of people are taking him in the first round. I don't like him. He's coming off an injury, and with Jay Cutler throwing the ball, I would have him as a weak number 1, a solid number 2, which means you can get him anywhere from 1 to 3.
Draft him. Yeah, like you said, draft him 1 to 3. As I like him. I like him as my number 1, solid number 1. Well, okay number 1, strong flex. Strong number 2.
Strong number 2. And wide receiver Kevin White. I like him. I think he's gonna be amazing this year. He's super fast. He likes to go deep, so that means he's gonna get 4 or 5 80-yard bombs this year. He's probably gonna catch right around 10 touchdowns, probably 90 catches.
He is a sleeper.
He is a sleeper only because he hasn't played yet.
Yes.
And he's going to be a stud when Jeffrey goes down because he's going to go down again this year. I guarantee it.
He's a strong. We did a couple mock drafts. Some of them when we drafted him, we got him as a flex or a number 2, I think, or a bench.
Mostly flexes and benches. Yeah, I want to take him as a number 2. He's easily a flex or a bench.
Yeah.
Running back Jeremy Langford. At first, I loved him because Matt Forte's out. He did pretty good last year filling in. And I think he would do amazing. I'm sorry, but I see a raccoon climbing up a house right now. Time for a little break in our action. There's a raccoon climbing up the side of our house to our neighbors. But going back to Jeremy Langford, I'm sorry. I never seen that before. So running back Jeremy Langford, I like him. At first I liked him because he's going to fill in for Matt Forte, and he's going to get all the ball. He's going to run the ball. But he listening to more people talk about him. They don't like him. He only averaged about 4 yards a carry. He's a number 1 running back on the team. As far as drafting him, he's a weak number 2 bench player.
Week number 2, strong flex.
Strong flex, yeah. So
I like him this year because he's the number 1 running back in Chicago, and they have to run the ball sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think he's gonna be good because Jay Cutler isn't gonna be as good as, let's say, Eli Manning. So they're gonna pass a little bit and run a little bit. About 60% passing, 40% running. So he's probably going to get about 5 to 10 yards a carry, I think.
Yeah.
And about 500 yards maybe.
Running back, if he's a starter, he's going to get close to 1,000. So I would just be cautious. I mean, read up on him, get your magazines, get your updated fantasy news. We like ESPN, so we could just be cautious of him. Do your research on him, and then we talked him up. Number one, probably in our top 10. Zach Miller, tight end.
Yep.
We would both draft him. We would both take him anywhere from 7 to 9. We like him both a lot.
Yeah, draft him in the middle.
Yeah, there's really nothing else much to say about Zach Miller. If you can take him as your number 1, go for it. But wait a little bit. If you can find someone better, do it. But take Zach Miller. Minnesota Vikings, Adrian Peterson.
The best. He's pretty much the only guy.
That's really it. I mean,
draft him early as your number 1.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely number 1 running back. He's easily. I've seen him go number 1. I've seen him go number 12 out of 12 teams. So anywhere in between there, if you can get him, take him. Unless you're going to draft Antonio Brown, then that's a different story and podcast when we do our mock draft and rankings. But everyone knows Adrian Peterson. First round, take him. Number 1 running back. As far as the rest of the team, Teddy Bridgewater, really no. Steph Diggins for the receiver. I don't like any of them. Kyle Randolph. He's okay, but he's not even my top 12 tight ends.
He's not even in my... Yeah.
Yeah. So Adrian Peterson for the Vikings. And again, I think when we do our predictions, the Vikings are probably going to come in last place. Maybe 3rd place. Maybe the Lions will beat them out for last. But Peterson's it.
Yep. But yeah, he's the only guy. They can't throw. They can't catch.
Yeah.
Even if they did have good good quarterback.
Yeah, I mean Teddy's okay. He's coming along, but he's got another 2 years I think to improve before he really can do anything. They did draft a kid from Germany who only just started playing football this year.
Really?
Yeah, I don't even know his name, so I won't even worry about him. But I just think that's interesting, very cool, and he picked up football by watching YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool rags to riches story. Never played football, watched YouTube, and now he's in the NFL. Well, now let's see if he makes the starting squad though.
Maybe.
So that's it. That's the NFC East and the NFC North for you guys this week. Hit us up on our Facebook page at Tyler and Eli's Fantasy Football Tips. And then you can also email us questions at Tyler and Eli fftips@gmail.com. And you can hit us up on Twitter at Tyler Belawski. That's BELAWSKE. We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments, concerns, questions about your team, questions about the season coming up, our player evaluations. Just let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you guys. We got a couple emails already, so we're going to do an email podcast coming up very shortly. But until then, don't forget to visit GJP and Oswego over in the J.C. Penney Plaza. Get your phone calls in at your orders in at 207-1000, and you can check them out on Facebook at GJP Oswego on Facebook, and email them at gjposwego@gmail.com. Any final comments, questions, concerns for you, Eli? Anything you want to say? One last thing.
I just want to re-highlight two players that we talked about. First up, Eli Manning. He draft him as your number one. I really like him. And then I have one more about Eli Manning is going to be really great. Tony Romo is going to be really not. So I would not draft him at all.
All right, you make me happy with Eli Manning. You make your Uncle Kurt and
South Dakota.
Yeah, unhappy.
He likes the Cowboys.
He likes the Cowboys, but it doesn't matter. For me, my last thing is watch out for those Washington Redskins. I think Kirk Cousins is going to blow it up this year. Matt Jones is going to blow it up. Jordan Reed, all of them. Jordan Reed, maybe not Pierre Garçon, but definitely Deshaun Jackson. They're not going to win, but they will. They're going to be. They'll put their fantasy points up, and that's all that really matters. I always have a saying: it doesn't matter if you win, but just win my fantasy points. You can put up 3 touchdowns and you lose by 7, but as long as you get to 25 points. For my quarterback, I don't care if you win or lose. If that makes any sense at all. But anyways,
really.
So that's going to do it for us this week on the Tyler and Eli Fantasy Football Tips podcast. Until next week, we will be covering the NFC South and the NFC West.
The West.
And that's going to wrap it up for tonight's podcast. All right, that's it.
See ya.